Blah blah blah, vaguely self-aggrandizing intro, lecherous reference to currently popular female celebrity, clumsy segue into actual topic, snarky dig at presently topical political issue.
Comics are weird!
Just to get everybody up to speed, DC Comics is using the reality-reshaping shenanigans of their currently winding-down miniseries Flashpoint as an excuse to give their entire universe a reset-to-zero reboot, condensing, simplifying, and modernizing the backstories and status quo of their biggest-name characters. Since there's still a lot of good, hard-working people writing and drawing for DC, everyone is apparently obligated to pretend that they mean it for reals this time, and that everything won't just go back to normal, save for a handful of changes people end up enjoying in whatever the next big event is. Okay, I'll play along. So far, the biggest changes that are known to be coming out of this are that Barbara Gordon can walk and is Batgirl again, and that Superman and Lois Lane aren't married anymore. The big rumor is that the second change is happening so that they can pair off Superman and Wonder Woman, which is pretty much the universal symbol for this is an alternate universe in DC books, but you'll forgive me for hoping that's not the case. And instead, DC editorial finally grows a pair and lets part of this modernization be letting Diana finally come out of the Invisible Jet's invisible closet. Besides, how is this supposed to work as a couple, anyway? Outside of work, what does the Kansas farm boy here have in common with the warrior princess of an everlasting sapphic day spa?
So, what do you do for fun?
Oh well, I enjoy a good corn harvest, and the comedy stylings of Lawrence Welk. Yourself?
Let's call it gymnastics.
Now, nobody really gave a shit when Superman got hitched back in 1996 in what amounted to a publicity stunt tie-in with Lois and Clark, and in the 15 years since, it hasn't really resulted in any meaningful change to the way Superman stories have always played out. But people are crazy pissed off about it ending now, mostly because it reminds them of another continuity-altering superhero breakup that everyone is still really upset by. Now, I was never a huge fan of Spider-Man being married, but I'll be the first one to admit that One More Day didn't work. However, This I can get behind. Whatever else the new DC universe is, I can state unequivocally that Superman not being married is a good idea. Now, before everyone freaks the hell out, no, I'm not saying that no one should get married or that fictional characters should never change. In fact, the lack of change is why Superman being married never made any sense to me. See, people forget this, but there actually was a reason why this character and his obvious soulmate didn't get hitched for that first half-century. Superman, as a godlike protector figure, had to belong to everyone in the world equally. It'd be pretty hard for a guy who's supposed to embody good old-fashioned rural American selfless do-gooding, blown up to Herculean proportions, to suddenly go, "Oh, sorry, planet Earth, you're on your own now," so he could settle down and be happy. Having to live a double life and keep even his closest friends at a certain distance was the sacrifice he made for the greater good. This is a huge part of his character. They even made a whole movie, the entire theme of which was re-explaining this concept, remember? So for me, yeah, you can tell a good story about Superman getting married. It's just that the only way a Superman marries Lois Lane story makes sense is if it's also the Superman retires and here's how everyone else adjusts to that story. But you can't really do that when comic publishers aren't willing to commit to anything that changes the paradoxically static dynamic of their main players. Remember, the most stable married couple in the genre is probably Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, and that's pretty much because they were already being written like an old married couple with two obnoxious kids when the book started out. Instead, DC did the same thing with Superman that every other ill-advised supermarriage does. Big, headline-getting wedding issue, and then almost immediately he's right back to being Superman exactly like before, but now he's technically supposed to be married. And I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Superman, the big blue Boy Scout who always does the right thing no matter how hard, gets married, and then continues to spend what has to be at least 90% of his time away from his wife handling superhero stuff. You know what? Ask anyone whose spouse is an active duty member of the armed forces how stressful deployment can be on a family unit. Superman is going to put his wife through that times 1,000 on a near constant basis? I don't think so. I kind of feel like Ma and Pa Kent probably raised his Kryptonian ass better than that. Again, this is pretty basic, consistent character stuff. You know, at least with Spider-Man's ill-advised wedding, the idea of it happening kinda made sense. If only because make hasty decision, take on too much, watch someone else suffer for it, recommit to heroism out of guilt is pretty much Spider-Man's whole entire thing. So, yeah, Superman is single again? I say good. It's been a long time coming. Oh, and getting rid of the red undies, that was probably a good idea too. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.